the power to overcome. We often mess up in our Christian lives, not because we are malicious or evil, but because we are frail and needy. We need a power beyond ourselves to win that fight. We need something that is bigger than we are. We need a power that is stronger than what we can conjure up on our own. The Apostle Paul knew exactly what we are going through. He wrote, I am sold into slavery with sin as my master. I really want to do what is right, but I do not. Instead, I do the very thing I hate. But I can't keep myself. It seems to be a fact of life that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. I love God's law with all my heart, but there is another law at work within me. That is the war with my mind. This law wins the fight and makes me a slave. The struggle is not something new. We all wrestle with sin. God, the author of freedom, can help us. He has a power bigger than our own, which will free us from repeatedly losing that wrestling match. We need to pray. This is not the life I want to live. I want God's best, but somehow I keep losing the battle. Lord, give me strength greater than my own. God's gift to us. God does not depreciate, demean, or devalue us from our frailty. He loves us so much because He is our Creator and the author of freedom. He gives us a gift to help us in the midst of our frailty. You will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witness both in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria, and even to the remotest parts of the earth. Acts 1 and 8. Power is from the Greek word dynamis, which is where we get the word dynamite. Is a power, an explosion, ability, capacity, and capability far greater than our own. God says He is going to give us a dynamis power far greater than our own ability. He is going to give us a power when the Holy Spirit comes upon us. He gives us this power so that we will be His witnesses. The word witness comes from the Greek word marthos, from which we get the word martyr. We all need to be a living sacrifice. Jesus is saying that He gives us power to be a martyr. Does He mean for us to lay down His life? Sorta, but not as a dead martyr. Therefore I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living and holy sacrifice. Romans 12 and 1. Yet, yes, we are to offer ourselves a sacrifice, but not as a dead one. Instead, He speaks of a living sacrifice. So the Holy Spirit gives us power to lay down our lives. We all have free will. One of the greatest gifts we will receive can be at the same time our greatest curse, the gift of free will. Free will is our ability to even reject the Creator itself. He's not going to make us do anything tonight, but He wants us to be willing. And He has given us free will. God has given us that gift, the right of free choice, free will, only to the part of His creation which is made in His image. All the rest of His creation, whether animate or inanimate, really doesn't have the free will that man has. Animals are hardwired with instinct. Their migration patterns, eating habits, and their reproductive patterns are all basically the same from day one. They do the same thing over and over again. That's why people say, well, these birds have migrated this way for thousands of years. Mankind is given free will to better itself or to destroy itself. God has given you and me free will to advance or to retreat, to bring peace or to bring war. Free will will be our greatest gift or our greatest curse. But we need to tell ourselves today that we're not for sale and we're not going to sell out. The most negative part of the free will that God has given us to us allows man to reject his own maker. We see that all over the world today. Rejecting God is one of the outcomes of the gift of free will. Rejecting God would destroy us spiritually, but not necessarily physically. We can live as an atheist who rejects God, but will ultimately destroy us for eternity. Sometimes we freely choose the impermanence of life, this life here on earth, over eternity. We think it is going to be just fine. Sometimes that even happens in our own hearts as Christians, when we know the right thing to do, but our free will is stubborn within us. By our own actions or attitudes, we actually reject what our Maker is saying to us. We know it's not right. We know it violates God's will, but we just can't stop ourselves. We need a power greater than ourselves so that we can do what we know is right. The war inside. When that happens, there's a war inside of us as Christians until the day we go home to eternity. It causes such an inconsistency of life and burnt bridges in our relationships because we make dumb decisions. Later on we think, why did I do that? It is not what I want. Who will free us from this power that seems to keep us so much in its grasp? God understands and says, I'm going to give you the greatest power of all. You shall receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, that you can be a living martyr. The Holy Spirit comes upon us to give us power, the power to lay down our right to override God. We have that right, we have free will, we need a power greater than ourselves, so the Holy Spirit comes and says, I'm going to give you the power to die to the right to override God. True freedom comes. Oh, please help me to do that so that I don't have to wrestle and debate with God and fight and get pulled down by the enemy. I want to be free for all that. The Holy Spirit is given for that very purpose. And if we accept His assignment, He will give us power to lay down our right to override God. Do you understand the freedom that comes when we don't have to worry about going against God's will? We get rid of all the eternal fighting and all the debating with ourselves. All of it.